of the correspondence team match between my video lessons group and those of CARPE DIEM. And this was played down on board 200 of 210 boards. And let's see, let's have a look. About a 1550 versus 1350 rating. We have kind of a mismatch down on the lower boards, and even the 100-point advantage over quite a few of the lower boards. So they have a very strong team, but we have the numbers. Okay, 4 knights defense, and black plays the Rubinstein variation. This, I'm not going to go into the detail. That's your job to look these up. Black offers a pawn for development. I remember looking at some games of these back when I was in my teens, age 13 to 15, and black usually did well with this line back in the good old classic days. It's named the Rubinstein variation after Akiba Rubinstein or Rubinstein. I don't know how you pronounce it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm sure he was a clever player, and I'm sure he had some nice attacks with it. You're welcome to do some research, because you got to know these lines. You have to look them up when you playing correspondence chess, and I really wonder how much a lot of these people do actually bother to look up. I don't think they do, and you're missing all the advantages that correspondence chess can teach you, which is outlined in my video lesson 001. So, black defends his pawn, white counterattacks it, and black strikes in the center. And here the inexplicable happens. I've had friends that played postal chess, chess by postcard for years. And back in the days when we knew how to play it, when you took your time for your moves and you didn't treat it like a substitute for an over-the-board game or a blitz game for that matter. Hey, my opponent's here. Let me see how many. Maybe I can get 40 moves in the next 20 minutes while he's online. Yeah, right. Okay. But we always were. Nobody ever made blunders against us. You really had to work. Every once in a while, somebody would report, "Hey, my opponent hung a queen in a postal game." My goodness, how can you do that? Because correspondence chess is supposed to eliminate these blunders from your game. So, what white needs to play is pawn takes. I guess I'll take with the pawn. Check. And let's see here. This is just a possible line. It's by no means forced. Bishop backs up. And white castles and black castles. And black's got a little lead in development. White's got an extra double pawn. But still, the game's about even. A clever player with black could maybe build up an overwhelming position. A resourceful player as white could maybe hang on to that pawn and get an advantage. It's a game of chess, and the more time you invest, the better you're going to do. But as I said, the inexplicable happens, and white blunders a piece. He wasn't paying attention. I don't know how long he took on his move. These things aren't measured, but free piece. And there's really not much to the game anymore. Black's happy to trade pawns and pieces off the board. And here, maybe black's afraid of, I don't know what. White's not threatening to play this mating motive, bishop h3, with the idea queen takes, because white has the resource of queen takes bishop. Okay, so white's going to quickly offer a queen trade here. There it is. Thank you very much. Black says, I'll just liquidate and win the ending. Now here, black needed to play a5. Instead, he makes a blunder. Obviously, black is moving too quick. And white finds the right square but the wrong piece. Go attack this knight. It's pinned. If black doesn't move it, white's winning his piece back. Okay? I guess black can grab a pawn and you get some pawns for it, but you don't want to give back the piece you're ahead. And if you retreat the knight, you drop the exchange, and then you have two pieces for the rook. Okay, bang, bang. Hello. Do you want to grab that? I don't know. The rook might get trapped, but it's a little tougher for black. Black's still okay, but white finds the right square, but the wrong rook, and black has an exit, which he could have done last move. Knight c2. And white grabs a pawn but loses a piece. The rook comes back. Now he bounces back again. Look at that. Rook's kind of bouncing like a ball. To b7 to b2 or b1 to b7 to b2 to b8. And now he's gone. Black controls the open file. Black's up 2 pieces. There's really not much to this game, unfortunately. And White's trying. Even if the file opens up, there's not a back rank mate. The dark square bishop can go back to f8. Black just keeps gobbling pawns. And Black's got some queenside pawns he should think about moving. He hasn't yet. There they go. And now White decides to give up the exchange. I don't know, he probably should just resign because he's now down a rook, a bishop, and a pawn. Or two pawns. One pawn. And now that pawn is going to queen. And why is White still playing? But he gives up right here. So there really wasn't much to that game. White had his chance in the opening and dropped a piece. So let's bring up the other game here. Is this the right one? Yeah, it's the right one. The color's reversed. Let's flip the board and reset it and load it up. Why does it start games off at move 8? I mean, hopefully version 3 gets rid of this. Okay, so here's a case of, I think, somebody not looking up the opening. Maybe both sides. Here, we'll see what happens here. This is the Vienna Gambit. It comes out of Vienna game. They play the King's Gambit a move late. The difference is this knight's on c3. And, of course, this knight's on f6. But I don't think Black should take the pawn because now look at this poor knight. He has to go back where he started. And White's just picking up development here, but White needs to play knight f3. And instead he plays d4, and Black, I'm sure this position has probably been reached before, it's in the book, but queen h4 is begging to be played. Queen h4 check is the move. White pretty much has to move his king, and Black will just develop, bishop b4 with a get ready to move the knight, get ready to castle, then think about the queenside pieces. Break the center open with d6. It's a perfectly logical game. Well, White's going to have to justify giving up castling, and it would take on the game would take on a whole new perspective. But obviously Black wasn't looking up the game, and just playing what he thought. He plays d6, and Black's really going to misfire this opening coming right up. Next thing, he needs some development. Okay, what to develop? Well, you can't put the knight on f6. How about if we just put the bishop on f5? Okay, bishop f5. And if White wants to take, that develops this bishop. And if he trades bishops, that develops the queen. Make exchanges where your opponent develops your pieces. There's an example right there of a good choice by Black. Instead, Black improves the position of the white bishop and didn't develop a thing. Now, I can't read Black's mind. I don't know what he's thinking. I can only try to deduce. But Black comes up with a real howler here. Howler meaning, oh, like, oh my goodness, how can you do something like that? The logical move is to get rid of this e-pawn, is bring your knight back to f6. Maybe Black wants to develop this bishop, but he doesn't want to lose this pawn. Well, cover it with knight f6, okay? It's that simple. Then bring your bishop to e7, and you can castle. And, you have a chance here, because you're not that far behind in development. Instead, Black comes up with f6, which is just bad. Okay, I'm not trying to pick on you, Marine Adrian. 2001, our man Stevie Newton did the best he could with what you gave him, and you gave him a lot. Okay, see, what's wrong with this move? It didn't develop a piece. It took away the square from the knight. It's going to make Black very difficult. Black's going to have a very hard time castling kingside if White occupies that diagonal. He just retreats the bishop to where it's safe. And now Black commits another howler. a6, absolutely horrible and terrible move. And it's funny how this move is going to bite him later. Or could have bitten him later, we should say. We'll get to that in a little bit. Not yet. See, every time you move a pawn, you weaken a square. Here, Black just weakened b6. Now, that doesn't mean anything, you say. Okay, so anyway, I've seen it quite a few in these games, or in the games I've done with the this video series, where people push their rook pawns up one square. Why? They don't like bishops pinning their knights. They don't like a bishop pinning the knight. or they don't like a knight going to the square and menacing a knight fork. So they stop it, okay? They say, I'll play here and you can't do it. Well, white's not planning to put a bishop on b5. He wants his bishop here. If he puts his bishop on b5, he's developing black's pieces, okay? White wants to play bishop c4, okay? That's what white wants to do. White doesn't want to stop and play knight b5 because black can defend it with knight a6. And what's this knight doing there? Not too much. Okay, so a6, once again, weakens b6, doesn't develop a piece, lets white get even further ahead in development. Now white's got 3 pieces up. Now, a good move might be to play bishop d6. So if bishop takes, the queen can take. Maybe that's okay. Instead, now since he took f6 away, he needs to develop the knight, but now he blocks his bishop in. And white just keeps developing. And fortunately, black develops another piece, but so does white. And now, black commits yet another horrible move, h6. Okay, why? I mean, what? This just is going to get him in so much trouble. Okay, I can understand pushing a pawn there if you're afraid of stuff coming to g5, okay? I can understand that, but you already have a pawn covering that square. What you just did was you weakened this diagonal, you weakened the g6 square, you didn't develop a piece. You got to develop something. Get your king to safety. Bishop here, followed by queen here, and castle, and you have a game. Okay, white's probably a little better because he's ahead in development, but black has got a fighting chance. h6 is slowly but surely handing white a forced win. All white has to do is find it. And white starts finding it by castling. Now look at the white army. All 4 minors develop, castled, and the queen off the first rank. Rooks are connected. All white needs to do is develop his queen rook. Black has got 2 knights developed, and for him to catch up to white, he's got to move both his bishops, but one of them is blocked. So he's got to move probably his knight, you would think. So that's two bishop moves and a knight move is 3. 4 moves for the queen, and castling is 5. So black is 5 tempos behind, or 4.5 tempos if you... Well, actually 5.5 tempos behind. Let's see. Well, bishop, 3 bishop moves plus or 3 moves with the bishops counts the knight move. Then the queen is 4, castling is 5. And white's got 4 minors, his queen, and his king out. So yeah, I can't keep track of the math. You know what I'm saying? White could be down 2 pawns and probably have the better game because a pawn is worth 3 tempos. So what does black do? g5. Whoops, not that. That's the move. Bishop d7. Okay, that wasn't the right square. Now how's the queen going to get off the back rank? Black's falling even further behind. Next comes his howler. I thought it'd come a move later. Now white's completed his development. Now he's pinned this knight. So black realizes, oh, I can't move my knight, and I want to develop my bishop. So black plays g5. It would have been better to have admitted his mistake and just put this bishop here. Okay? Put the bishop there, get the queen up, and castle. But g5 just really, really weakens everything on the black king position. So white just makes what we call a little creeping move. He moves his big, powerful queen 1 square with a very potent threat. Checkmate. See that? Whoop. Come on, back arrow. There you go. That's mate because this knight is pinned. Can't move. So probably what black need to do is try this maneuver. Queen here with the idea of queen here, and hopefully you can get castled. But unfortunately, white's not going to let you castle here. So black defends g6 with his rook. Unfortunately, that just gives away a free rook. So once again, we have a huge material loss right out of the opening. Weak pawns. One of the other problem with pushing g5 was it weakened f6 and h6. Those pawns are both going to fall here shortly, as you will see. Now he sends the queen over, I guess to give the king luft or air. Should have gone over here so you can get out. How are you going to get the queen out here now, huh? Didn't think of that, did you? Okay, well, hello. You can't castle now. And white just gobbles a pawn. Now what's white ahead? He's ahead of rook, and he's ahead of pawn. A rook and a pawn, and that advantage is going to grow. Now bishop f5, finally getting it to the right square, but dropping a bishop. Oops. So now he's down a rook, a bishop, and a pawn. King comes up, and here white could just liquidate and retreat the bishop, but white makes a blunder and gives a piece back, but he can afford to. D5. And now to black's horror, he discovers he can't play queen takes d5 because rook d1 pins, so black's just given the piece back. And here comes the thing I was alluding to earlier. I said we'll see why a6 is a mistake. Well, white to play and win, probably 9 people out of 10, if they look at this instantly, are going to play knight f6 check. I mean, nothing wrong with it, other than the fact that white has a better move. Pause the video. And I've already given you a clue. Let's see if you can put it all together. Okay, you resume the video. The clue was way back when black played a6. I said it weakened the b6 square. See, that pawn on a7 or a6 is no longer protecting b6. Well, you say, yeah, well, the black pawn is defending it. Black pawn on c7. Well, the problem is that black pawn is overworked. He's defending 2 squares. If that black pawn were missing, queen d6 check is lethal. It forces a mate in 2. So all white has to do, I hope you found it, was play knight b6 check. Beautiful little move. Okay, where does the king go? Well, he can't come back here. The knight's in the way. Oops, can't go here. Queen and bishop are in the way. Can't go here. Queen and rook are in the way. Can't go here or here because this rook is in the way. So that leaves one move. This one. If you still had this pawn on a7, not only would he have had another piece developed, might not have been in this mess, but he would have been able to take with this pawn and keep a pawn on c6 or c7. So now white just wins instantly with queen d6 check. As I said, the c7 pawn was overworked, guarding 2 squares, and black must retreat and checkmate. So if white had thought a little longer, nothing wrong with his move though, except when you see a good move, look for a better one. White could have sent conditional moves, and probably they'll all be accepted, and the game ends. Next time white logs in after black's moved, he finds out the game's over. He looks at the moves, and his conditional moves are accepted, and game over. Excuse me. So anyway, but the check is lethal too, but it just extends the game. You see where I'm move 22. This game is actually going to go another 10 moves. And white just keeps picking up material. Hey, look, a free pawn. Now what's white ahead? He's ahead a rook and a queen. That's pretty decisive. Black should resign. And white just starts liquidating. That's going to win a knight. He gets the king out of there. Now white's ahead a queen, a rook, and a knight, and a couple pawns for good measure. And thank you. Here's a bishop. And I'm not even going to count the material anymore. And white brings this game to an abrupt conclusion with a back rank checkmate. Okay, so just as an addendum, we were talking about, I was thinking of this when black missed a chance to do this check. I was saying white can't play g3. There's actually a variation somebody showed me back in the 70s. It's called the tumbleweed. And this is the tumbleweed because it's going to tumble right across the board and collect white pawns. I don't recommend this opening, but I thought I'd share it just for the fun of it. Okay. And this is the tumbleweed. Now the king comes over here to stop a discovered check, something that's possible if the king is on e1. And now this pawn takes. Now you could take the pawn, but I think the idea is you let that tumbleweed sit there for a while. But you're going to lose your e-pawn. So the knight probably goes to f3, and you've given up 4 pawns. You're going to get 1 back. You'll be down 3 pawns, but hey, you got a lot of development for it. I don't recommend this opening. I just thought I would share it. I was thinking of it when in the original game when black missed this, because you can't play g3. You have to move your king up because now this is a potent threat. if you play bishop g2 to stop, then pawn takes check. Well, let's see. Maybe you can do this. You still have to bring the king up, but you can't take the knight. Well, yeah, you can take the knight here. You promote to a knight. Yeah, kind of like that album counter gambit I covered in one of the videos. You go this way. Now you can't take the knight. Well, yeah, you can, because you're getting a queen. What do I know? Okay, so on pawn takes, then if you play the knight out, black just gives up his queen and it's reborn. This is kind of similar to stuff in my Nimzovich Fred. The color's reversed. Usually, though, in that position, black is capturing a knight on this square, and although white can move his queen there, he's not capturing a knight. Black has the luxury; it's still sitting here. You'll have to look up my video on the Fred. I think it's in the Nimzovich playlist. It's definitely in the preview, and the last video in the Nimzovich, I think, has all the Fred declines, and one or two before that covers the Fred. But anyway, good games for Steve Newton. 10. You handled them well. A little shaky on the one when you played Bishop A5, and then you missed the nice Knight B6 check. These are the kind of moves that you love to play. If you take your time, you'll find them. And those are watching. This is the 29th video. I have about 10 more to go to catch up, and I'm sure by the time I get those caught up, there'll be more results coming in. But you're going to learn a lot about chess if you made it this far. Stay with it. Watching my videos, you get the explanation, clear and concise. This is what people tell me. It's clear and concise, and I cover what you need to know. Help you learn how to analyze. How do you analyze? Make developing moves, because undeveloping moves and premature attacks don't lead anywhere. That's what these videos are proving. Develop pieces, and if your opponent doesn't develop, you've got great chances. So I thank you all much for your time, and take care.